Well, yeah, so basically, Jackie, what happened was the neutral arbitrator, Shyam Das, he released his finding. Slava Voinov was suspended for 1 year by the commissioner, Gary Bettman, on April 9th. Slava Voinov, for domestic abuse, Slava Voinov appealed through the NHLPA 1 day later. The finding has come out from the Shyam Das, the neutral arbitrator. He upheld the 1 year suspension for 82 games, but he credited Voinov for 41 games served already. So now Slava Voinov will be eligible to return at the midpoint of this season. The league's response to that, of next season, I should say, the league's response to that is they did not feel that Voinov was entitled to the 41 games served, but overall, in the totality of it, they are happy that the neutral arbitrator sided with Gary Bettman on the 1 year suspension, because that's what it will be. It will be an 82-game suspension. So he is now eligible to return at the midpoint of next season.
All right, fair enough. That is the latest on Mr. Slava Voinov. The real reason Dan Rosen is here, though. The better reason that he's here is because we're going to do a little Stanley Cup Final roundtable as we kind of look at these two teams, the Bruins and the Blues, head-to-head at every area of the game. And we'll start at the position of forward. Who do you think has a slight edge in that area each? Why don't we start with you?
Well, I'll give the Bruins a slight edge at forward, but I'll tell you what, it's tight. I look at it, when I look at forwards, I think about where are the centers, right? Who are the centers on these teams? And you have Bergeron, you have Krejci, you have Coyle, and you have Corrali for the Boston Bruins. And, boy, that's nicely slotted right there. I mean, that is a nicely slotted group of centermen. But on the flip side, for the St. Louis Blues, you have O'Reilly, you have Schenn, you have Bozak, and you have Sundqvist. So, I mean, that's also a very nicely slotted group of centers, three really good centers, and then a good fourth-line center in Sundqvist. Then you start to examine the wingers, and I think both teams have good wingers. They have good chemistry within their lines. So I think it's very close. The difference for me, guys, is simply this, that when I look at that center group and that top center, Patrice Bergeron, for me, he is an elite center in this league. And I think Ryan O'Reilly, while a very good one, is not quite at that level, so I give just the littlest of edges to the Bruins.
And you also have to go with experience too, right? Just a little, but you got to go with experience too, right? I mean, Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci have been there, done that, right? So they don't. The Blues don't have guys of that ilk with over 100 playoff games played who've been in the Stanley Cup Final multiple times. And the other thing that I got to look at is Sean Corrali. Right? Yeah. Sean Corrali, to me, is a difference maker. I spoke to Mike Babcock about their series against Boston in the first round, and one thing he mentioned was Corrali being out for the first handful of games made a difference for the Bruins, and he impacted the series when he came back, because he is another guy like Bergeron who they can have in the defensive zone to take a D-zone faceoff and finish his shift in the offensive zone. It opens it up for Charlie Coyle and for David Krejci to be more offensive guys. Bergeron is obviously he's a 56% face-off winner, and Corrali has been a difference maker, driving that line, which has been so effective, whether it's on the score sheet or not. That line changes momentum. Same thing for the fourth line of the Blues, but I just think the experience factor plus the impact of Corrali give that slight edge.
A little edge. How about you, Lots? Are you with us or against us?
You're against us. You can see the face you're against us.
No, are you going to go draw again?
Honestly,
Lots is big on going draw.
I hate when Lots does the draw.
We're picking lint off a $1,000 suit at this point right here. Just for clarity, okay? Yeah. What do I mean by that? I mean, both these teams are really deep. I do find it particularly interesting when you think about Patrice Bergeron, four-time Selke Award winner, going up against potentially the next Patrice Bergeron and Ryan O'Reilly, a guy that's also been nominated for the award this year, along with Mark Stone, who deserves credit. We haven't had a winger win this award
in
a
long time.
Yuri Lettinen? O'Reilly is the guy to me that just absolutely blew the doors off. Career highs in assists and points this year. He was the only guy that I think all of us unanimously would say has been there from game one.
Yeah, exactly.
He has.
Because he has showed up on a nightly basis, and I'm dying to see if the Bruins want some of that matchup or if they maybe go away from it. The other thing I will tell you is do not discount the fourth line of the St. Louis Blues. I agree with you.
I agree.
Corrali was a huge difference maker. But the last game, Game 6, elimination, let's get rid of the Sharks. Who plays the most minutes? Oscar Sundqvist, 1947. This guy
and Ivan Barbara wasn't far behind.
Ivan Barbashev is a lot heavier than people.
Yes. And Alex Steen has really accepted that role. I mean, he's taken on
He's
that.
Embraced it. There's nothing. He is not a fourth-line player. But he's on the fourth line in theory.
Right.
Jackie, would you like to do the honors?
No, I'll let you do this one.
So
There'll be more
sitting on the fence.
Who has the?
Oh, give me a break. Give me a break.
Even here?
I don't know.
Why is he even
I
here?
don't know. By the way, the fourth line for the Blues, a goal in 5 straight games for them for St. Louis. So that tells you how crucial they've
On the
been,
fence again.
especially in the Western Conference Final for the Blues. All right, let's talk about the back end. A lot of people say defense wins championships. If you believe that, how do these two teams match up in terms of what they have on the blue line? Rosen, you can start this one.
Well, I think it's pretty tight again. I mean, I go slight edge to the Boston Bruins for that little bit of extra experience. And I really like the dynamic of that they have on their 3 pairs, especially their top 2. You have the long reach of Chara on the left side and the beautiful skating of McAvoy on the right. And on the second pair, it's reversed. You've got that terrific offensive defenseman in Krug on the left side, and Brandon Carlo has been a beast in these playoffs on the right side. And you know, an interesting thing about Brandon Carlo is he came into the leagues in his 3rd year now. As a rookie, he played with Zdeno Chara. The reason he did was they wanted Carlo to learn how to play and be a big man and be a shutdown defenseman from one of the best ever. And he did. I mean, and it makes perfect sense. Chara's 6'9", Carlos 6'5", and just learning how to play against top guys. He did that. He's now played with Krug the past 2 years. He's been really effective in the playoffs. And the other thing he's done in the playoffs is, you know, he hasn't scored. He's one of 19 players on the Bruins have scored, and Carlo's one that hasn't. But everywhere you look, Brandon Carlo is all over the place when he's on the ice. He allows Krug to do what he does too offensively. I think Carlo's been terrific, and he still has, just like Chara, that long reach, that shutdown mentality. So slight edge, very slight edge.
I love how much we're emphasizing that.
Well, I could say 6 on one side, half a dozen on the other. But I'm not going to say that.
There we go again.
I'm not saying that. Hey, look, let's be honest, right? The Bruins have much more mobility back there.
Yeah.
What they have in mobility, they lack a little bit in size. The Blues are a heavier D, in my opinion. They're on top of their game. Joel Edmondson's back, playing well. Pietrangelo's been tremendous. I love that pair. But I love the job Colton Parayko has done. Him and Jay Bouwmeester have been really remarkable. I'm going to go with the Blues and their heaviness in this series. Is going to wear down.
One.
Yeah, I was going to pick one. Yeah, I know.
Good job,
I said maybe 6, but I'm actually taking the Blues D. I've been really impressed by them.
Yeah,
all right, well,
again, I do think it's close here. You know, the interesting thing for the Blues is, you know, they're heavy right now. Let's say they open the playoffs and they struggle a little bit and feel like they need a little bit more speed. Can Vince Dunn get back in the lineup?
Can he get back in the lineup?
Because he seems like he's moving towards the possibility
of being
a player. But, you know, do they take, you know, right now they're winning, right? So if they're winning, they're going to keep those guys in there.
They were winning against a banged up, beaten down San Jose Sharks.
No question.
Team.
But regardless of that fact, if you keep winning, I think you keep your lineup the same. I like the fact that the Blues have an option if things don't go well in the first 2 rounds, or they feel like, hey, we need a little bit more explosion back there. Yep. We need a little bit more speed. If Vince Dunn can come back and play and be a player, that's really going to be important for them. I like the pairs and the balance that the Boston Bruins have. I really love Carlo and Krug together. I think they're an underappreciated D pair. Chara and McAvoy, I mean, the old guy with the long reach, the defensive guy. We'll probably see a lot of Tarasenko on that side, don't you think? I mean, Tarasenko on the right wing, Chara as a left side D. I think you'd rather, if you're Boston, you'd rather see that matchup than see Krug, who's quick, but smaller. Yeah. So we'll see how those matchups play out. But I'm like you, Dan. I give a slight edge to the Bruins.
All right, one more, real quick.
All right.
Goaltending. Tuukka Rask, who has been absolutely lights out for Boston. And then the rookie, which still feels weird to say, Jordan Binnington, one of the biggest stories of this second half of the season.
Well, I could say potato or potato on this one as well, but I'm not going to do that.
He's got a lot of sayings.
I'm going to go with Tuukka Rask. I think he's absolutely locked in. He's on top of his game. He's been incredible. No disrespect to Jordan Binnington. He's been wonderful. He's had this amazing energy around him that's propelled him forward. But Tuukka Rask, to me, has absolutely stolen games for the Boston Bruins in these playoffs.
Tuukka Rask, look at in their 3 clinching games, 1 goal against on 96 shots. In their 3 clinching games, he's got 7 straight wins with a .961 and a .129 goals against average. 9 goals against on 229 shots for Rask. Those are just unbelievable numbers. And look, Jordan Binnington has been fantastic. We can't say that he hasn't, but the Bruins, I think, in the end, shockingly, have actually relied a little bit more on Rask than the Blues have on Binnington, and Rask has really come through. He was never better than the first period of Game 3 against Carolina when he made 20 saves to keep them in that game because they were getting crushed in that game, and Rask made sure it didn't matter on the scoreboard. So I got to go with Rask.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rask, too, for the experience. He's been in the Stanley Cup Final 2013. Didn't work out for him, but in those 6 games, .932 save percentage. He was around it in 2011 behind Timmy Thomas, so he has the experience. He's been there. It's a different environment in the Stanley Cup Final, but all that said, Jordan Binnington has been just a special story. He does not look nervous to any of us.
No, he doesn't.
And
neither does Tuukka.
And the subplot, not at all. And the subplot of Jordan Binnington having played with the Providence Bruins last year through a kind of crazy set of circumstances makes it even more intriguing. But I'll go Rask to give him a little bit of the edge.
I'll say this. I don't know what this series is going to boil down to ultimately, but I don't think goaltending is going to be it.
Problem, right?
No, it's not going to be an issue for either of these teams.
So